Chapter 2, Lesson 1, Fractions and Decimals. Our learning objective is you will use place value and a number line to convert between fractions and decimals. Our central question is how can you convert between fractions and decimals? Okay, so we're going to be dealing obviously a lot with fractions and decimals. So look at this connect here. It says you can use place value to write a decimal as a fraction or a mixed number. Okay, right here in this orange where it says place value, make sure that you understand this. We went over this last chapter, but I know that we still, my class at least, struggled with tenths, hundreds, and thousands. So make sure that you are reviewing that so you know what each place value is. Unlock the problem. The African pygmy hedgehog is a popular pet in North America. The average African pygmy hedgehog weighs between 5/10 and 1 25/100 pound. How can these weights be written as fractions or as mixed numbers? So over here on the blue it says, how do you know if a fraction is in the simplest form? Okay, and the way you would know that is if the numerator and the denominator only have 1 as a common factor. So if they have something other than the number 1 as a common factor, they are not in simplest form and you need to simplify it further. But if that's all they have in common, you cannot divide them both by something, then that is simplest form. Okay, so we are to write 5/10 and 1 25/100 as a fraction and as a mixed number in simplest form. So this number here, 0.5, is 5/10. So that means 5/10, which they have right here. We're going to write that as 5/10 because if it's 5/10, we have 5/10. Simplify using the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of 5 and 10 is 5. Okay, so use that GCF to write out the factors if you need, and then you'd come to the answer that 5 is the greatest common one. Okay, so now we have 5/10, and we're going to take that 5/10 and divide the numerator and the denominator by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So once we divided the numerator and the denominator by 5, we get 1/2. So 5/10 can be simplified to 1/2. Look down here at part B. Okay, part B says 1 25/100. Gave that answer away. 1 25/100 is 1 25/100. Oops, I forgot D. 25/100. So we're going to write that as 1 25/100. Simplify using the GCF. The GCF of 25 and 100 is 25. So 1 25/100 equals 1 25/100. We're going to divide both of those by the GCF, greatest common factor, which is 25. If you divide, not 52, 25. If you divide the numerator and the denominator by 25, you're going to get 1 25 divided by 25 is 1. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So it would be 1 1/4. So divide the numerator and the denominator we did by 25. So the African pygmy hedgehog weighs between 1/2, because we're taking that 5/10 written as a decimal and turning it into a fraction, which is 1/2, and 1 1/4, because we took that 1 25/100 and turned it into a fraction. So 1 1/4 pound. Look at example 1. It says you can use division to write a fraction or a mixed number as a decimal. So we just converted decimals to fraction, and now this is going to explain to us how to use a fraction and turn it into a decimal. So it says, write 6 3/8 as a decimal. Step 1 is to use the division to rename the fraction part as a decimal. So we're going to take the numerator divided by denominator. Okay, numerator divided by denominator. Use division to rename the fraction part as a decimal. The quotient has 3 decimal places, which we're going to look over here. At step 1, it says go ahead and just do 3 divided by 8. We did that last chapter, so when it goes in 0, we're going to keep that place value with the 3. And then it goes in 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24, which leaves us with 6. Bring down the 0. 60 goes 7, which is 8 times 7 is 56, which gives us 4 left. Drop down our 0 to hold our place value. Goes into 45 times, which is 40 with 0 remaining. If we look, we had 1, 2, 3 decimal places. Now we're going to add the whole number to the decimal. So we're taking 6 plus what we got right here, which is 0 and 375 thousandths, which equals 6 decimal 375 thousandths. So 6 3/8 equals 6 and 375 thousandths. Okay, don't overthink it. You're just doing division with the decimal. And then over here on the math talk, it says, explain why zeros were placed after the decimal point in the dividend. And remember, a 0 is placed in the tenths place group because there are 0 groups of 8 and 3, and zeros were placed in the hundreds and thousands place because they were there to continue to be a remainder. So remember, we can put these zeros here if we have remainders to keep going until we get rid of our remainders or until we're at a place where we feel like we can round the number up or down. Example 2, sometimes you can use a number line to convert between fractions and decimals. Okay, so looking at this number line, it says graph 3 3/5 on the number line and write it as a decimal. Okay, so here is 3 2/10, and then here's 4, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines here. So I know that these are going up by tenths. So this is 3 4/10. Skip a line here for 3 5/10. This is 3 6/10. Skip a line here. This is 3 8/10. Okay, so knowing that, then I look down here, and this is 1/5, and this is 4. So 1/5. This would be maybe, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, so that can't work. So then if I go skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if I get to 5/5, that's another whole. So I know that this is broken up where each or every other line here is 1/5. Because we went 3, skip 1, 3 1/5, skip 1, 3 2/5, skip 1, 3 3/5, skip 1, 3 4/5, and this would be 3 5/5, which equals 4. So now, if I have 3 3/5, so they want me to write as a decimal, I just look at what number that's connected to, which is 3 6/10. So I also know that I can take 3/5 and write it as an equivalent fraction of 10. Well, how did I get from 5 to 10? I had to multiply it by 2. If I do that to the denominator, I have to take the numerator, also multiply it by 2, which is 6/10. 6/10 can be written as a decimal with 1 place value. Okay, that's another way to check my work. Do you have any questions over this lesson, which is 2.1 fractions and decimals? Make sure that you ask your teacher. Quick reminder is that our learning objective is that you will use place value and a number line to convert between fractions and decimals.